Hey, Nicole Roberts-Jones here, and welcome back. Welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast, a time I connect with you to really give you all the tools, strategy, insight, so that you can have a life full of meaning and fulfillment in the work that you do. Yes, that's God's intention for your work, for your life. So I'm excited. We are in our final part of our relationship currency series. And listen, I'm going to do a quick review, but I'm going to say this again. Some of you are new. Some of you have been here with me. The way I teach one builds on the next. So I'm going to always encourage you to go back and watch. So by the way, if you need to go back and watch, you can go over to my YouTube channel, nrjnetwork.com. Those of you that are listening on audio, I'm doing slides. And anytime I am rolling solo on these episodes, I'm always going to have slides. Why? Because listen, the goal for me is not about what you listen to, it's what you implement. What makes you shift, think different, see things in a different way? How does your viewpoint shift, your life transform, your work increase because of these episodes? That's really my goal. All right. So again, this is part 3 in our relationship currency series, right? So let me remind you, currency. Currency means a system of money in general use. Of course, we know that, but think about it this way. Circulation is a medium of exchange. The fact or quality of being generally accepted or in use. So I want you to think about that. Circulation is a medium of exchange. So in your relationships, how is there a medium of exchange in your relationships? You guys have heard me talk about this, about the fact that when people keep taking and withdrawing and withdrawing, and they don't deposit, at some point you're going to have a deplete account, a deplete you. Listen, no one can serve from an empty cup, but you should not be the only person filling up your cup. Come on, somebody, right? So it's about your relationships. The second part of this definition, the fact or quality of being generally accepted or in use. The fact or quality of being generally accepted. So again, in use, that means that it's energy. Energy flows, right? When things aren't being used, they're sitting still, they're stagnant. So I really want you to take some time to identify where you are in your relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about relationships at work. I'm talking about your sister girls or your best friends or your homeboys or whatever that might be for you. All right. So quick review, part 1. Just going to give you the highlights. Again, go back and watch it. If you missed any of it, I'll put nrjnetworkup.com while I'm going through the highlights. So part 1, I talked to you about why your net worth is in the power of your network. And as I did that, I gave you some steps and some insight around the power of your circle, your social circle. Again, showing you how it's either adding or taking away. And then I talked about your top 5. Now, a lot of the references I'm using are team focused, but I've tried to use some other ones along the way for those of you like me that, the only sport I really love is basketball. Well, let me be honest. I love football during the Super Bowl only. Other than that, I'm a basketball girl, right? Then part 2, I talked to you about the 6th man advantage and read the 4 principles to harness his power. The 6th man is a man that comes off the bench and comes into the game like an MVP and helps you win. Again, if you missed that, go watch the nrjnetwork.com. Go back to that episode. NRJ Network, by the way, is my YouTube channel. Easier way for me to say it, NRJ, my initials, network.com. Go back and watch it because all those pieces are important. These are all the different relationships you have. Now, here's one of the most critical factors. Get a pen if you don't have it because I'm getting ready to go in. That many people kind of talk about but don't really go into, and I'm getting ready to go all the way in. Part 3, here we're talking about when it's time to make necessary changes because sometimes people got to go. Everybody can't stay. When you think about basketball, how many times do you see teams that trade their players? Players get traded because maybe the something is off and they're not playing well with the other players, or they see a player on another team that would actually make a better asset. Come on, a deposit into that team. So you've got to take the time to actually look at when it's time for you to make some changes. Maybe you need to do some drafts. Maybe you need to let some folks go. Okay. So for purposes of this, I'm going to call it pruning. I'm going to give you a sports analogy probably in a minute, right? So think about what pruning means. Now, I'm also not a gardener, but when I was looking this up and getting ready for you, I kept finding pruning examples in the Bible. So therefore pruning. So think about when a plant needs to be pruned. What you're doing is cutting away the excess so that it can grow. You're cutting off what's not working so that you can get more, grow more. You get that? I was listening to a podcast. I'm trying to remember who I was listening to. Listen, I'm always, when I'm driving to a meeting or driving into DC, and I live 45 minutes outside of DC, I'm always listening to some book, an audiobook. And I think it was Kamala Harris's book. I don't remember. But it talked about this plant that she kept trying to give back. No, it wasn't her book. Anyway, let me not spend time trying to figure out what book that is. Anyway, listen. The author was talking about how she kept taking this plant back that she bought because it wasn't growing. And she took the first one back because it died. And then she got another one, and the second one died. And she was like, listen, y'all, these keep dying. And they said, no, you've got to cut it and then let it come back to life. So I want you to think about that for a minute. What needs to be cut? And what do you need to give the space to come back to life? That's really the summary of this conversation. But let me give you some strategy. All right. So first, I'm going to give you some Bible. John 15:2, that says, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Again, he prunes it so it could grow more. But if you're not growing, it's gone. So pruning means that you're cutting back. And so I really want to talk about in this episode, I want to give you 3 types of relationships that must be pruned. Some need to be cut back, some need to be let go. And you've got to know the difference. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 steps here, and I'm going to give you another 3 steps on how to let them go. Okay. But first, I want to make sure you understand the 3 types of relationships that you must let go. All right. Y'all with me? All right. And by the way, as I'm sharing, if this resonates with you, you have questions, insight, comments, please post. I want to hear them. I'm not here for me, here for you. I want to hear how this blesses you. Okay. Or if you have questions about what I'm sharing, so I can actually answer your questions. All right. So number 1, the first relationship that must be pruned, I call this, you got to know when you need to pluck versus prune. I know you're like, okay, Nicole, a whole nother word. Yes. So listen, here's what pluck means: quickly or suddenly remove someone from a dangerous or unpleasant situation. So maybe you might need to pluck something in that plant and maybe take it out of that pot and put it in another pot because that pot is too small and it's not allowing it to grow. So I want you to really think about this in your relationships. It's understanding when someone needs to be benched. So this could be someone that is maybe going through something right now and she just can't be there for you, right? She might be going through a divorce. Her kids might she just dropped her child off to college and she's feeling some kind of way and she needs some time to transition. So these folks are people, I like to say, are in the audience that are watching the game, but they can still come into the game once they get back in alignment with who they are, right? Again, they could be going through something hard. They could be going through divorce. They could be going through just had a baby. Any of those things doesn't mean you totally cut them off and let them go and never talk to them again. Sometimes they just need to sit on the sidelines and watch for a moment because they're going through something, and allowing them the space they need to go through that. You got to know when the relationship is in that first place. The second place is when it is sick or unhealthy. You got to know when a relationship is sick or unhealthy and really causing you to be unhealthy. And sorry, this is what I mean being in the audience. So the first one was in the bench. This one's sitting in the audience. Now, the reason I call it sitting in the audience, because listen, you can't just tell somebody, I'm letting you go. I ain't talking to you no more. Stop calling me. It's not that simple. So they might be in an organization that you're in and you've just taken 10 steps back to release yourself, to not maybe be as close to them as you used to be. It may even be in your family. So they still get to see you and see what you're up to, but they don't get to contribute to it. So if you're sitting in the audience at a play, you're not acting in the play. When you're sitting in the audience at a basketball game, you're not playing in the game. See, the difference between being on the bench and being in the audience is that a bench person can come off the bench and get in the game, just like your 6th man. Some people, again, are going through things. That's the first one. And they might need to be set on the bench for a minute. But folks that are in your audience may be people that, I think what they're doing is just not going to, well, let me just say it like this. They're not contributing positively to your life or your career. Sometimes these people are so full of drama, they're sabotaging themselves, that they can help us sabotage you as well because they're so stuck in their own negative. It makes me think, if you guys remember Charlie Brown and I think it was Linus, I forgot the name of the character that always had a dark cloud over him. These are those people that always have the dark cloud. Also makes me think of, was it Linus that said, wowsy, wowsy, woo, woo, right? That might have been another cartoon. But the point is that they're unhealthy and you don't want their negative to get into infiltrate your spirit. You've got to be mindful. You know, my cousin Meaty always says, check your spirit. I know I've said that on one of these episodes or working on my next book. I might have said it in there. I don't know. But literally, if you have to check your spirit the entire time you're around somebody, yeah, unhealthy. They need to go sit in the audience. They don't need to have a front row or insight or a bench player's view of the game. See, the bench players know all the plays. They get to see the playbook. You know, audience, you don't see the playbook. With me? So, number one, got to know when it's time to pluck. Pluck just means pluck them out of the game, sit them on the bench, let them get themselves together, then they can come back in at some point. But there comes a time when you got to prune them and they need to sit in the audience. But then there's some people that are just holding you back. And these would actually be what I would call haters. But before I get into that, let me read this Bible verse. James 3:16 says, for where you have envy and self-ambition, there you find disorder in every evil practice. You know, there are going to be some people that are jealous of you that just hate on you. Haters, right? And I'm going to tell you most times it's been my experience that when people are hating on you, it's because, listen, one of my favorite quotes, and I didn't write this down, is Marianne Williamson that says, when you let your light shine, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Well, sometimes when you're unconsciously giving people permission, they don't want that permission because they're not ready. Whether they don't believe in themselves, they have low self-esteem, somebody negative planted something in them. But then they say things to you like, who do you think you are? Or, oh, so you think you're special? Or how you going to do that? You know, those kind of people are people that will keep you down if you allow it, right? So you've got to know when those three people are around you. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how do you cut them, how do you release them, right? But here are the three. You must know when to pluck versus prune. You got to know when it's sick or unhealthy so you can sit them in the audience. And then you got to know when they're holding you back because they're being a hater. Hater is full of jealous and envy. And nothing good can be produced from that. So I know you're saying, but how do I let people go? I know you're asking that. I know you asked that from the beginning. So now I'm going to give you 3 steps to let people go. Okay. So I need you to really take a moment, take a deep breath in, release it. And here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to write down every person that you interface with, whether it's your best friends, your besties that you hang out with all the time, whether it's your mate, write that person down. Maybe you're dating somebody, write that person down. Whether you want to also do a sheet of people at your job, write them all down. And then I want you to think about, are they playing on your team? Are they a part of your top 5? Or are they in one of these 3 areas? They're either in your top 5, it's your 6th man, which is your mate, which gets to be called in when you need them, moment's notice, or they're in one of these 3 areas. I want you to take some time to assess the people you have around you. I think sometimes we're so busy, being busy, working and doing the things we do, we never stop long enough to realize who is infiltrating our spirit. And can I tell you, this is where the enemy does his best work. If he can infiltrate your spirit and make you second guess yourself, make you not believe in yourself, make you step back instead of step up, then he's victorious. And I believe that's what haters do. I don't think that's their intention, but the enemy knows how they feel and he gonna use it. Come on, somebody. All right. All right, so let's get back to this question about how do I let people go? I gave you some homework, so make sure you do that homework, all right? So let's talk about the 3 steps to prune relationships that are no longer serving you. So when we looked at category number 2, let me pull my cheat sheet up, right? Category number 2, when it's sick or unhealthy, if they're sick or unhealthy, they can sometimes get better. So letting them be an audience because maybe they might go to counseling. They might realize that they've got some stuff to work on and they might work on it to get better. But if you see it's so sick that it can get you sick or they're envious or jealous, then you've got to prune them, point blank, period. You can't want more for them than they want for themselves. You can't just pray and pray and pray and pray that they get better because if they don't want to get better, they're not. Because trust me, dare I say, your prayers, God has already been talking to them, I bet you, and they're not listening. All right. So, 3 steps to prune relationships that no longer serve you. So, first, you got to acknowledge and accept how it is affecting you. I don't care if these are people you've known since you were 5. I don't care if it's your best friend from junior high school. You've got to take some time and really, really realize how that person is affecting you. I've realized, I'm trying not to say names in case these people might be watching this, that I've had people in my life for a really long time and I felt obligated to keep them in my life until I began to do this work myself. And I realized, you know what? Me letting them go doesn't take away the memories we have. We have all kind of memories that will never go away, good ones as well as bad ones. But as Maya Angelou has said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And so I had to sit with the fact that, yes, this person I have great memories with. I'm not going to say where I know this person from because, again, she might be listening. But when she showed her, as my grandmother would say, when she showed her ass, because that's what my grandmother would have said, I had to believe her. And I had to realize how it was affecting me. It was making me second guess myself, making me play small. And can I tell you, when I finally had this realization, what I realized is like heavy baggage. Do you ever stop to think about why they weigh your plane, why they weigh your bags before you get on the plane? See, you've got to know, if you get on a plane and the baggage is too heavy, the plane will crash. That's how Sarah Aaliyah died. She died because of the baggage, the substance they had on that plane. It was too heavy and it made the plane go down. Well, when you have people around you that are adding heavy emotions, heavy thoughts, negative, hurtful things in you, it's weighing you down. So you've got to acknowledge and accept how they are affecting you. So all the names of the list of people you just wrote out, I want you to pay attention to when you're having a good day and all of a sudden you shift into a bad mood. Is it because that person said something to you or did something to you? Even dare I say, and I'm not trying to minimize if you've been raped or abused or any of those things, but I need you to understand that was a decision that person made. That wasn't your choice. But now you get to be in choice. Do you let it weigh you down or do you rise above it and grow from it? And if this is speaking to you because it just dropped in my spirit, then please go to counseling. You're not crazy when you go to counseling. Listen, I've been to counseling and I still have a counselor on speed dial. A lot of the work that I'm walking you guys through, I learned not just through my counselor, but because I did the work between my counseling sessions. And I realized how much baggage I had been carrying around with me. I was like the bag lady in Erykah Badu's song, Bag Lady. Mm-hmm. You can't, what she say? You can't travel around like that. And neither can you. God has so much in store for you. But if you're allowing things to weigh you down, you won't get there. Okay. So once you acknowledge it and accept it, then you've got to stop giving negative influence access to you. That's why they're either an audience or they're not even at the game. They don't even get invited to the game. So you've got to stop giving them access. What does that look like? Right. So maybe this is somebody you used to go to happy hour with, and you realize she a hot mess. I can't fool with her. You can't just say to somebody, "I can't fool with you anymore." It doesn't work. That is a setup for a fight. I'm letting you go. You can't do that. But what you can do is stop giving them access. Maybe you're not as available. Maybe you don't text right back anymore. Maybe when they ask you to go out, you just aren't available. They'll get a hint over time if you do it with grace and ease. Because after all, what I believe is when someone is envious or a hater, it's due to something negative inside themselves that somebody planted in them. And who knows, they might get themselves together and get back in the audience. You just never know. But you've got to stop giving them access so they cannot access your spirit. So that negative gets in your spirit, it affects your entire being. Remember I talked about iron sharpens iron in the first one? And the Bible talked about the continents, that it really does speak to the continents. Well, hello, if you're giving somebody negative, giving somebody access to that's negative, it's going to affect your continents negatively. Mm-hmm. So step 1, acknowledge and accept. Step 2 is stop giving them access. And then number 3 is refocus on your goals and the deposits that help you get there. So you begin to look at your list. Listen, if life is the game of life, which I always like to call it, then you got to realize either people are either helping you score points or they're taking points away as in being on the opposing team. They're stealing the ball and going to throw the basket, because I'm talking about basketball, in the opposing player's basket. So you start to look at your goals. You can begin to see who's adding value to help you get there. Now, I'm not saying you have to be working on your goal, but listen, I have some of my top 5, some of my best girlfriends are the ones I go to happy hour with that just make my spirit up and make me feel good. And I need those too, just like you do. So really spend some time. Go back. If this is your first episode, even if you've watched all 3, I want you to sit with and really make that list of who all your people are and really begin to understand who is around you. So those are your 3 steps to prune relationships. Now, listen, as we close this series, I got to give you a Bible story. I've given you some Bible verses, but I've got to walk you through a Bible story. Now, again, think about it this way. Currency, relationship currency, either they're adding to your life or they're dissipating, they're taking away, they're withdrawing. Now, in the perfect world, everybody will always deposit. There's sometimes when my husband gets on my nerves or my best friend gets on my nerves, it might be withdrawal in that moment, but their deposits outweigh their withdrawal. Okay. So to summarize this series, I want to tell you a little story. Now, you probably have heard of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Let me come back on camera for this. You've heard of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, okay? So what happened, now this is the Bible verse that I'm going to focus in on. But his wife looked back behind him and she became a pillar of salt. But his wife looked back behind him and she became a pillar of salt. That's Genesis 19:26. See, it's about you looking forward and not back. What they did yesterday, great. The ways they contribute to your life, great. But you're looking forward at your goals. How are they making contributions now? Okay. So this is taken from a story about Sodom and Gomorrah. And to read the whole story, I'm going to encourage you to do that. It's in Genesis chapter 19. Okay. So what happens in chapter 19, 12, and 13, an angel comes to reveal God's plan to Lot. Lot is, I believe it's Noah. Is that Abraham's? No, it's Noah's son. I think it's Noah. I should have looked this up before I came on here. But anyway, so this is what the angel said to Lot. No, Lot is Abraham's son. I don't know, y'all. I'm getting confused. It's been a long day. I've been in meeting after meeting. Usually I can rattle it off. Actually, I didn't bring my phone in here, so I can't look it up for you. So listen, go look it up. Okay, so Lot was one of the main characters in Genesis' son. Okay, I believe it's Abraham's son. Okay, so listen, an angel reveals God's plan to Lot. And this is in 19, 12, and 13, and it says, then the men said to Lot, the men are angels, have you anyone else here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city, take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. In other words, they're saying, hey, you better get out of here. You better go, because we're about to take this down. So they were trying to save their lives. And see, even when Lot hesitated, in Genesis 19:17, they said, so it came to pass when they had brought them outside, like they had been out the city, that he said, this is an angel again talking a lot, escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. So they told him we were going to kill people. Y'all better get out of here. And then they got him out of the city. And Lot still looked back and he said, listen, don't look back. And that's where 1926 comes in. But Lot's wife looked back. And she became a pillar of salt, meaning she got stuck right where she was. See, the past cannot change. It can't be changed. And focusing on it prevents your growth. It prevents healing. It blocks new opportunities. It drains your energy. Negative people can't be changed unless they want to change. So you've got to be clear who is on your team and how are they a part, either what kind of currency are they? Are they making deposits? Are they making withdrawals? Withdrawals that are leaving you feeling negative and depleted? Are they making deposits helping you feel good about yourself and move your goals forward? Are they supporting you, loving you? Even your team at work. Are they working toward the goals, or are they depleting that account and taking away from your goals? See, Lot's wife second guessed the angel. And so she looked back, and guess what? She got stuck right there, never to move anywhere. And that's what happens. When you allow negative around you and you don't do anything about it, you get stuck right where you are. You'll never reach the heights God has for you. You'll never get to the abundantly above all God has for you, because you got the wrong people playing on your team. That's why folks get traded. So some of y'all, it's time to make some trades. It's time to let some people go. It's time to give people some space. It's time to stop allowing them to have a front row seat in your life and move them out if they're not making positive deposits. So with that, that is our relationship series, part 1, 2, and 3. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you what you've learned. Do you already know your top 5? Are you using the 6th man in your relationships? Because everybody doesn't have to have a 6th man, but if he has a 6th man, he better play to win. Hello, somebody. It's interesting when I stop and say that. I've had friends that have gotten married and they married the representative, or they became the representative because they didn't allow that person to see all of them. So my single sisters, you should never have to let go of any part of you to be in a relationship. If he can't accept all of you, then he needs to take all of himself out the door. Hello. I remember the guy I dated prior to my husband used to tell me I was too silly. Have you met me? That's who I am. So he would tell me that I needed to stop being silly, but I didn't stop. Obviously, why are we not together? My husband is just as silly as I am, and we have good time acting silly in here together. Again, you should be able to be all of you. There's a silly part of Nicole. There's a Jesus girl part of Nicole. There's a strategist part of Nicole. There's a South Central LA part of Nicole. There's a bougie part of Nicole. And he loves all of them. So with that said, I want to encourage you to do your homework. Look at who your top 5 are. Look at who your 6th man is. Look at the 3 different types of people that you need to let go of. Identify how they're affecting you and be willing to be courageous enough to shift their position in your life. Now, I'm always going to ask you if this has been a blessing to you. I want to hear it. I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. I want to know what are the top 2 or 3 things you learned in this episode. Additionally, will you share it? I don't ask you to share because I'm trying to grow my reach. No, I ask you to share because somebody in your top 5, in your arena, may be dealing with this right now. Maybe a best friend you've had since elementary school. It could be a best friend you've known from college. It could be a person you've been dating since you were in high school, and it's time to let them go. All right? So again, it's always my honor and my privilege to serve you, to teach you, to pour into you. And I look forward to our next episode. All right? Make sure you share. Make sure you tell me what you learned. I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.